I'm talking about on a week-to-week basis. You have leap past boxing with the rate, and it's, listen, the people that get mad shouldn't get mad at me for telling what I see, because it's a simple formula. It's not that freaking complicated. You're putting on competitive fights. Every week, you know you're going to get a good competitive fight where the favorite could easily lose, and where it's on a regular basis, where a guy with 5 losses, 6 losses, 7, it's not a death sentence like it is in boxing. Those guys have learned how to fight. And what it means is they can compete with anybody in the freaking world. And they do. And the problem with boxing is that these networks, with their promoters, the promoters, really the network is like a sugar daddy for the promoter. It's kind of, I hate to talk that plain and that honest about it and that raw about it. I'm sorry. And I know people are going to be all pissed off at me, and it's okay. It won't be the first time. Get in line. But they go and they sell themselves in a way that they connect with the promoter, and the promoters put on A's versus B's. The house fighter with the opponent. And most of the time, you know how that's going to end. Not only the house fight is going to win, but it's not going to be competitive. And people get tired of that. People don't want to go to a movie when they know what the end is going to be before the movie starts. So they get tired of it. And what do? They go to the UFC.
When I was a casual, I thought as a casual, I spoke like a casual, and I looked at boxing like a casual. But when I became a hardcore, I put away all those casual things. This is Michael Rogers, and welcome to Bodywork Boxing. What's going on? It's Michael Rogers. Welcome to Bodywork Boxing. You just heard from Teddy, and I value Teddy because he is a boxing Hall of Famer. His ties with Tyson, his ties with Tim Bradley. And, here lately, he's just been an open book, can I say? Where he's just, speaking his mind, and he's really touching on a lot of things that boxing fans really aren't paying attention to. We do know that the business of boxing does cater to the casuals. Now content creators are actually catering to casuals, but hardcores are now actually seeing that the business of boxing is slowly ruining boxing. And as Teddy stated, the matchups we're seeing, you can pretty much predict who's going to win. You got a lot of content creators, and I'll tell you a marquee indication as to how the business of boxing is ruining boxing and what the current state of boxing is actually about. If you see a content creator and they've made it to where they actually have a betting site that you can enter their code on, you know that boxing is pretty much catering to the betting odds. It's a money game. But speaking on what Teddy is actually talking about, he's talking to Dana White, and he's basically giving his perspective on how MMA has leapfrogged the sport of boxing. And, MMA is a lovely sport. I got into it. It's a little gruesome. I kind of appreciate the sweet science of boxing a little bit more than MMA, but I don't shun MMA. And every so often, I will support MMA. There's a couple guys that whenever they fight, I check for them. And I used to be into, a couple years ago, I got into it pretty hard. It's hard for me to take seeing like some shattered bones or when somebody get kicked in the shins, and but gore is what audiences have been reveling in for years now. But my point is, Teddy is basically saying that people are selling themselves and tying themselves into promoters, and promoters are selling the fans the idea that you're going to see competitive fights. And what you see and what you hear is a bunch of lead up to these fights. You have a bunch of fans, getting ready to clap each other, fight each other, meet up, get it on, disrespecting each other over these boxers. And the build-up is actually more intense than the actual fight in a lot of cases. The sport of boxing isn't built around making competitive fights. It's actually built around, seeing people in mismatches. That's why I cringe whenever I hear, oh, such and such needs a soft touch, or, why would they do this? And, it's just like, stop it. It's there are no soft touches in boxing. Matchmakers make mismatches, and they give the illusion that one fighter is so good and so great, and then they actually build up opponents that have no business getting in the ring with certain fighters, and they play the numbers game until the profile of a fighter is built up, and they sell us, or they've been here recently selling us a bag of deformed products in the form of these fights. Pay-per-views are becoming more popular for people who don't really qualify or warrant a pay-per-view fight. The UFC actually does a good job because you never know. And the upset is there aren't really too many upsets. There are popular fighters who always have a shot to lose. Why? Because they're challenging themselves. You might have a striker that is going up against a wrestler, and it's who can impose their will the most. But in boxing, it's the boxer versus the puncher, or the runner versus the technical, boxer, or you have these kind of matchups, but it's all pretty much the same in boxing. Like, either you can box or you have a puncher's chance. And more often, we're just seeing a lot of mismatches. We're not getting the fights that we necessarily want. We have over-marination. And Dana White has figured out a recipe to always keep eyeballs glued to the screen. And Teddy speaks to that. And this is what's causing boxing to die. Boxing is anemic right now. And we can say that a guy like Canelo is the face of boxing, but it's really a popularity contest. And if you got the machine behind you advertising you and telling you this, and you have key people that a lot of people respect shoving this idea down your throat, as a casual, you'll buy into it. But I reason that if the Logan Pauls of the world can at any given time book a match with an ex-UFC fighter or a retired boxer and make more money than most of these boxers who have dedicated their lives since they were adolescents, there is no true face of boxing, and it's an indication that our sport is actually going more towards a WWE, WWF type situation. My last point is we're in a very tricky spot right now when it comes to boxing, because there are ideas that eventually a gentleman like Logan Paul is actually going to be able to fight and win a belt, a championship caliber belt, to fight one of these boxers. And it's a lot of skepticism about whether or not this man is juicing, if he's taking drugs. And right now, the lines are slowly getting blurred. That's why I don't make content about these YouTubers that's, integrating themselves in the sport of boxing. Yes, it's a form of entertainment. No, I'm not a hater. I would say get your money at the end of the day. But what I can say is when you cater to and you start making content about it and you start spending money on it and you start, talking about it and chiming in, you are creating an interest that is actually going to deprive the sport of what we really need, which is the best boxers, the dedicated boxers who dedicated their lives to boxing fighting the best boxers. And that's what we need to, we shouldn't be compromising. And I salute Teddy for being forthright and what he said about, you know, what's going on and how MMA has leapfrogged boxing. And it's kind of sad as a boxing purist. You know, it's my intent to keep putting out content, to keep putting out fresh water to preserve the sport. And all we can do is sit back and watch. We can support, we can put our dollars where we want to put them to actually keep the business driving, or we can withhold our dollars, withhold our content, withhold our efforts or whatever, resources, attention, and, you know, try to aid in, you know, prolonging the sport of boxing. But it's not looking good, you know. And I love boxing. I can sit around and talk boxing all day, every day. But, you know, I salute Teddy for what he said in his video and what he brings to the table and how transparent he's been. Salute, Teddy. And to all my fans, thank you for the support. All subscribers matter. That's it. That's all. Body work.
All right. I believe you. But my Tommy gun don't. Get down on your knees and tell me you love me.
My word, and I do what I do. He knows what I'm about to tell him right now. It's Mr. Keep running your mouth. That's what I do.
I just feel like I'm the champ, and at the end of the day, I'm just a fighting motherfucker. It doesn't matter. Inside, outside, I can just fight. So I just feel like if it gets down to the wire, and we gotta lock it up, I'm out on top.
Hey, look, as you can see how I'm looking, I stay solid. I'm always solid. I stay fuck solid up, man. You know what I'm saying? To the fans that know.
You gotta jump outside the ring. I'm a fighter. Like I said before, ain't no safety on the clock, so